Hey everyone, and welcome back to Don't Open That Door. I am the Esper, Justin.
I am the ringleader around these parts, Nico.
And I'm Dan, the haunted Blu-ray.
Oh no. And we are here to discuss Ringu, or Ring. It was released in 1998 in Japan, obviously. It was directed by Hideo Nakata, and it's starring Nanako Matsushima as Reiko Asakawa. We have Hiroyuki Sanada as Ryuji Takayama. We have Rikiya Otaka as Yoichi Asakawa, and Rie Ino as Sadako Yamamura. So this movie opens with a girl named Tomoko and her friend, and they're basically swapping scary stories between the two of them. Her friend brings up another kind of urban legend about a cursed VHS tape that some kid watched, and then after he saw it, he gets a phone call, but there's no one at the end of the line, and then he dies a week after. Tomoko tells a very similar story about a VHS tape that she watched 1 week ago with her boyfriend and a friend. And at first, she kind of pretends like it was just a joke, but then she admits to her friend it actually happened. And scary stuff starts to happen to her. Her TV turns on and she tries switching it off, but she eventually hears a high-pitched ringing sound and then she dies. Unfortunate. But what happens after that, Nico?
So it turns out that Tomoko had an aunt, Reiko, who was investigating the urban legend of the cursed VHS. After attending Tomoko's funeral, Reiko realizes that there is a connection between the circumstances surrounding Tomoko's death and similar stories of high school and middle schoolers dying after watching a mysterious videotape. This isn't just a thing that happens here. I mean, it is, but there's also a reason why. At any rate, Reiko goes to the Easy region to find out for herself and watches the tape, which consists of a series of bizarre and disturbing stills and clips. But like all the other victims, though, she hears a ringing sound and gets a phone call with no one on the other end.
So, Dan, what could she possibly do after this?
So she then takes the tape back to her workplace and tries to do a little bit more research and kind of starts getting freaked out. So she ends up needing some help and calls a professor, Ryuji Takayama, who actually happens to be her ex. And we also learn that he has psychic powers. Ryuji helps her conduct some forensic analysis on the tape. Unfortunately, Reiku and Ryuji's son ends up watching the tape as well.
Like a dumbass.
Yeah. So his week begins. Now all three of them have seen the tape and they're all cursed. They decide to follow the trail of clues to Oshima, where they learn the backstory of a gifted woman named Shizuko. Shizuko also had his ESP powers and was taken to Tokyo by one Dr. Ikuma to demonstrate these powers that she had. So at one of her demonstrations, her daughter Sadako killed a man for calling her mother a fraud. So after being hounded by the media and called a fraud and all sorts of nasty stuff, Shizuku ends up killing herself, leaving her daughter Sadako to be raised by the suspected father, Dr. Ikuma.
All that is certainly true. And there was one thing, Dan, that I forgot to mention is that Reiko makes a copy of the tape. It's a copy that she shares with Ryuji. So this will have relevance later, audience. So Reiko and Ryuji, they then deduce that Sadako, who is a more powerful ESP user than even her mother, Sadako's behind this tape and this curse, kind of. So they rush back to Izu, where they suspect she is. They find a well, and through a vision, they kind of see that one day Dr. Ikuma kind of, boops Sadako over the head with like a hammer or something like that, and he tosses her in a well. So Reiko, they jump down into the well, and Reiko finds Sadako's corpse. And, she and Ryuji are relieved because they think, okay, we've kind of rescued her or brought her injustice to light. So this curse is now broken. And it is broken, right, Nico?
Psych nah! It's the wrong number! While Reiko makes it past the 7 days, Ryuji does not. And while finishing an essay he's working on, dude just gets murked. He gets confronted by Sadako in, let me just say, I've known about this scene as a cultural landmark for so long. Actually seeing it for the first time, fuck me, that was terrifying. But anyway, Sadako comes out of the TV and just straight up kills him. Reiko finds out that he is DED dead and tries to understand why she was spared and he wasn't. Through another vision or apparition, she realizes that finding Sadako's body had nothing to do with breaking the curse, although she did give her skeleton a hug and it was kind of cute and unsanitary. You can save yourself by making a copy, though, and showing it to someone else, as it turns out. So the movie ends then with Reiko taking her VHS player to her son so that he can make a copy and, I guess, give it to one of his friends or something.
Yeah,
Which is some shit, if you think
that-
about it.
It's kind of a dick move. So
Could you just, like, go back and forth? Is that a thing you think you could do? Just, like, keep making copies of the copy between two people?
I'm under the impression that you can't show a copy to someone who's already seen it. Like, the point of it is to spread.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead now and discuss. Let's start off with the audio here. And because I personally really, really like the score. And I'm going to lead off with saying I thought this movie, honestly, and this is going to sound kind of wild, but this movie to me had one of the best sound designs of any horror movie I've reviewed for this podcast.
I'm impressed.
I really, really, really dug the fact that there were quiet moments. There were moments where the music really raised up, and it wasn't like jump scare level. It was never
Just
like,
gonna say
"Bring!"
that.
Like I don't think it was jump scare level.
It was
Not to me, at least.
dynamic. It wasn't, like, shocking for the purpose of shock. It was dynamic.
Exactly. Like I felt like the music was ominous when it needed to be ominous. And even, like just certain scenes in it were just awesome. I personally really, really dug the sounds. And I will have to throw in a little side note that the little ending kind of thing was so 1998.
Oh,
it was for
my
sure,
God,
It was
yeah.
for sure a bop. But Dan, why don't you go ahead and let the people know. What do you think?
No, I agree wholeheartedly with what you said, especially like with the jump scare kind of stuff. With jump scares, audio plays a big part in that too, not just the visual jump scare.
Bigger than most people think.
Yeah. But I also like what you said about, quiet. And I think that this movie utilized silence or at least maybe not necessarily silence, but quieter sounds very well.
Right.
And it just didn't always fill the space with some sort of sounds or strings or whatever. Did a really good job of that. So I really liked the audio as well.
All right. And Nico, because I know you had kind of told me how much you dug this audio as well. So what do you think?
The soundtrack to this movie is a fucking banger. Like, every piece of written music for this fits the tone of the overall product so well. Like, and the thing is, it's varied too. There are parts where these like almost melodramatic piano, like soap opera melodies in this one scene, and then there's this, like, throughout the movie there's music that I was joking with my roommate while we were watching it that this sounds like the Shadow Temple from Ocarina of Time, and he looked and they came out in the same goddamn year.
What?
Ooh.
You haven't seen them in the same room together, that's all I'm saying.
True. And it's funny that you mentioned video games because I was joking with one of my friends that some of the kind of sound design in this was kind of reminiscent of those late 90s, early 2000s, survival horror games.
Dude, yeah.
That was kind of when a lot of them were kind of at their peak, that kind of late PlayStation, early PS2 era type stuff.
This had mad Silent Hill 2 vibes.
Of course. Now, let's go ahead and swap over to the visual side of things. Now, we're going to keep in mind that this movie was made in 1998 is when it came out. So, bearing that in mind, I think it looked pretty cool. I guess to start with, and this is going to sound really odd, I really appreciated the costume design for Ryuji. I thought dude just looked real classy. Like, he is what I envision a popular college professor to look like. I thought he played the part really well, but aesthetically, I dug it, as well as Reiko's portrayal of the supposed kind of modern woman, the working woman. And we'll talk about that a little more later as well. But I really dug the visuals. I thought as well, just the end piece, because throughout the movie, it really doesn't have too much like high budget scares, preferring instead to rely on the atmosphere and tension that it's built. But the end piece where you see Ryuji, as Nico so eloquently put it, get murked by Sadako, it And when she comes out that TV, to me, that still holds up
Yes.
today.
Oh
Definitely.
my god,
That
that
still
shit
holds
was
up.
so fucking scary, dude.
That was what's up. And a side note, I love the fact that Sadako is not really revealed too much till the end. Like, she is this evil antagonist working behind the scenes that we never see. We never see. And I love that. I'm a big proponent of don't show it off too much. Don't show your star attraction too much. That's how you normalize it, and that's how you just make it not scary anymore. Sometimes. Sometimes. So that being said, I sincerely thought that it was cool, and I like the way her hair was covering her face. You only ever see Sadako's eye.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Just
her
the
hair-
one.
Yeah, one eye. And her hair is covering her face. And there is something disturbing about seeing just someone's hair covering their face and not getting to see their face because she's never humanized. We never see her
Right.
face. Never. And I'm not gonna lie, as a side note, my sister used to do that to me all the time. She would, after like taking a shower,
100% see
she would
that.
like take a shower and then come out with her hair still wet and like cover her face with it and chase me around when we were like little kids. So yeah, that was pretty funny. But Nico, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you now. The visuals, what did you think about them?
Honestly, I thought these were kind of timeless in a way. I mentioned earlier that it had, big video game vibes, specifically like Silent Hill or like early Resident Evil or stuff like that. And I think that a lot of that is some of what gives it that sort of just everlasting quality. Like there's this just uncanny sort of film over the entire view of the production, and it just makes it look much more like the thing that's coming to mind is that it feels a little bit more intimate because it's not super flashy, it's not super showy, and because it's more intimate and just like a little bit hazy looking overall, I think that gives it some incredible atmosphere.
And Dan, I'm gonna kind of ask you a specific here. How did you feel about the photos with the blurry faces?
I thought that was
How was that to
I
you?
thought that was dope. I thought that was badass. Right, I think twice in the film we see where Polaroids had been taken of people who had the curse, and like they show the pictures and the faces are all blurred out. I thought that was really cool and also really creepy, especially when Reiko has the picture taken of her and her face is all like blurred and kind of fucked up looking. That was pretty
Yeah.
creepy. Yeah, I thought that was a cool effect.
Now, the only thing I basically have to add to this is I wonder what the budget was like for this. Because to me, it seemed fairly low budget. Did you guys get the
was.
same feeling from
I
it?
got that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was 1.2 million. And apparently most of it was provided by Hideo Nakata.
What?
I keep expecting you to say Kojima.
That too. But no, that's crazy.
Metal
that,
Gear.
That he fronted so much of the budget for this.
Yeah.
He must have really believed in the work.
I bet it was a passion project then, yeah.
I mean, those are my favorite projects.
Yeah.
Also my favorite pits. So, that's the name of them, right?
Yeah.
No, you yes, that's
All right.
you.
All right, cool.
Yes.
Sorry. Thought I made a mistake.
We call
So-
this segment of the pod Killing the Bits.
So, a question for you, Nico.
Yeah.
So Sadako is essentially a portrayal of a Yurei / Onryo. So as to
Right.
someone like me who doesn't really know too much about that, can you elucidate me with your detailed analysis and study?
I could, yeah. Yurei is kind of like a general classification for a bunch of different sort of spirit figures in Japanese folklore and mythology, and specifically we get down to Onryo being the one that occupies the most fitting role for Sadako here. So an Onryo is someone who they got done dirty real bad in life. They got dealt a, just a real bad hand, and someone just took a shit all over their front yard, and it wasn't a good time, and they're pissed. They're real upset, and they're hanging on to that. And that hatred is what keeps them tethered to this world. So in the case of Sadako, Their question for the class is, what is it that could have let her be tethered to the world? What was she mad at? Dan?
I think it's because her dad booped her on the head.
Because her dad booped her on the head, and the survey says, ding, 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 yeah.
Nice.
I think it's that, but I also think that in a way she wants revenge for her mother.
Probably,
Also that,
yeah.
absolutely, too,
And the sort of, I would say maybe the injustice of people not believing in their powers.
True, but check this, right? It was the media that killed her mother. So she's using media to kill people back. So
Is that the parlance we're using? Kill people back?
sorry, I activated training mode right fast. But no, so like, but I mean, she's using a VHS tape to like exact
Hit him with the
revenge.
reverse.
So you could say
Pretty much.
video killed the film star?
That was almost fucking perfect. I want you to know.
It did, Dan. Well done. Now, I do have to ask as well, can we think of any kind of specific analogs in Western culture to this specific type of ghost? Or do we think there's maybe more specificity within the title or label of Onryo?
I haven't really heard them like in Western culture, a revengeful ghost. I can't think of one that's like goes by a particular name or like classification, aside from just being like a haunted spirit or something.
Because the one that comes to mind for me is a banshee. I know that can sometimes
Is that the one that you need the ESP radar level 5 frozen room and fingerprints or whatever?
Yes, indeed. Shout outs to the Phasmophobia crew. But also, I will say, I believe, and please, I hope someone, a listener drops me a line if I'm mistaken here, but I believe in some stories about, La Llorona, she's sometimes wronged.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, in a lot of them.
So I do think, we may not necessarily have such specificity with an Onryo, but I think the kind of trope of a person specifically.
I got one.
What's up?
Bathsheba from the first Conjuring. Almost a direct analog, really.
Well done, Nico.
Thank
you
you.
get a golf clap for that one.
Thank you.
Well done.
I feel
well
good
fucking
about
done.
that one.
So I guess kind of taking a step forward here and moving on. I think one thing this movie really had to talk about was masculinity / fatherhood as well as motherhood. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's a mother and father who have both, in some respect, neglected their roles individually that come together to solve this mystery from a child that really didn't have too much in the way of parenting.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that, but you're right. Yeah, definitely.
Because we can look at, for example, and keep in mind, this movie is a product of its time from '98, but we have Reiko, and Reiko is a journalist. But there is kind of a downside to her career, which is what, Dan? I mean, who does she not really have much time for?
Her child. She's like never home a lot. The kid is obviously fairly comfortable with living by him, or not by himself, but her being out late working and him having to prepare his dinner and take care of himself.
True enough. And I guess that could be interpreted, if we wanted to get, scholastic with it, that could be interpreted as some kind of criticism of the so-called quote unquote modern woman. But the movie does also have some criticism for, the male side of things, because I mean, is Ryuji a better father? Nico, would you say?
It's hard to say in context. I don't think he's a bad father.
He's also an absent father.
Yeah. It's hard.
I mean, he doesn't know anything about his kid really, and the Reiko doesn't really know anything about him either. I mean, she's like, "Oh, what are you doing now?" "Oh, yeah, I'm a professor." And when he gets to their house, he sees a picture of Yoichi, and he's like, "Oh, is he in like first grade or something now?" So like he obviously like has no clue.
It's kind of sad.
Yeah, and I do think that is a criticism, and this is probably going to be, the piece I contribute about this. I think this is kind of a criticism of, the abandonment almost of a family unit, because throughout the film, we see whenever something bad happens within the family unit, it kind of makes things go awry.
Yeah.
You know, Sadako's mother is basically pimped out for her ESP powers with the hopes that she'll get money back to the family. That's the hope. Sadako never really gets a chance at a happy family. But it is an interesting concept to play with because for a horror movie, I say for a horror movie as if horror movies don't constantly have themes like this, but I thought this movie had a lot to say and it was interesting. I thought it was very even-handed with both its criticisms and praise. And for the record, I think especially from a movie from, 98, I thought Reiko had a lot of autonomy throughout
for
the movie.
sure.
Honestly, yeah.
I mean, she was over here cracking the case, and both of them were sitting there pulling a CSI, analyzing the VHS.
Can I just say it's nice that they didn't go like super overtly like, and not that this is something that would happen in a horror movie, but I'm glad that there wasn't any of the like low hanging fruit of like, oh, I'm not gonna give you this case because you're a girl, which is like just get better writing people. So like, I'm glad they didn't do that.
No, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So I have another question for you guys. I'm just full of questions today.
Uh-huh.
I was gonna say you could call me the Riddler, but is a riddle a question?
Yeah. I mean, it usually ends with a question, right? What am I
Yeah?
or something?
So I guess riddles are questions, but not all questions are riddles.
Right. Unless
Sure, yeah.
you say now riddle be this before your
Oh,
question.
no, true. Yeah, he's got you there.
You got me. You've got me. I was talking about squares and rectangles, and you threw in a quadrilateral. So
Okay, that's
Which both
okay.
are.
Some fucking yeah.
shit.
We're really getting away from this.
So I have a question. I think this movie is just outside our age range. Not to betray any of our ages here, but we've talked about us being, 90s kids and whatnot. So I think that this movie came out in 98, probably a bit too soon for us to have really refined our chops or be seeing this movie. This is an R-rated movie,
I
correct?
think it's more that it was in Japan, my dude.
Okay, sorry. I mean, like, this isn't something that, for example, like, a movie like this wouldn't have been something that we would have seen in 98, even if it was released in America.
Okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. So,
Give or take 7-year-old me would not be watching this.
so one thing I'll say, and I mean, we already discussed how little Justin was a chicken shit, but I will say that it is interesting how we hear about this movie and, like Ringu or it is totally scary. It's scary as fuck. But when you watch it, one thing that really surprised me about this film was the mystery in it. I mean, this is a total mystery movie. Yes, it's a
Yeah.
horror movie, but it's a mystery movie. They solve and they follow clues. They have hunches. They track shit down. I mean, Nico, how do you balance this? Do you think it's a horror mystery? Is it a mystery horror? Does it go more one way than the other to you?
I think it is just straddling that line. I think the mystery part of it is sort of the vehicle for displaying the horror. Because, like, the more we learn through the, progression of the movie, linear nature of time and all of that.
Linear nature of time.
Yeah, the more that we learn about the movie, the more horrific things get, the more connections we see. And so I think that it is, while it is more adorned in the clothing of mystery, that climax, holy shit, dude, that's just like, man.
It was very good. It was very good.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to pass you a plate. What do you think is going on here between the elements of horror and mystery? Is it to your taste, first off? Do you enjoy the balance there? And how do you see it? Is it more mystery than horror?
No, I think it's still horror. I'd say they're kind of even, actually. There's plenty of mystery in it, but there's enough horror, and especially like the tension, as we talked about, I think in our bonus episode about what is horror, kind of the building tension and everything. I mean, that tension is there for a lot of the movie. And,
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I will say, when I finished the movie, I felt some kind of way. I was like,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
real
kind of
talk.
creeped out for a little bit. I was like, I don't know how I feel right now. And I mean, I just like, the combination of mystery and horror together and as evidence in movies like Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
So, yeah, I dug it personally.
I mean, listen, mystery and horror for me are kind of like a cola champagne solo and some carnation milk or condensed milk. But I mean,
And what,
It's-
dance milk?
All my trainees will get that reference. So basically,
condense, sorry.
so I enjoyed the balance a ton. Although I will say, I personally thought there was a lot more mystery to it than I initially thought, which as someone who basically wants to be like Batman, I enjoyed it. I sincerely enjoyed it. Now, one thing that the movie does bring up, and I personally think this is something that is a real interesting question. As we said, in the closing, this curse can only be stopped by making a copy and showing it to someone else. And you save yourself, but then you kind of also help propagate the curse. So here's the question. Can you think, and now this is back in 1998, it's not, 2020, it's 98. How could someone stop the curse? How could they stop this cycle?
Smash the fucking tape.
I think you'd have to have like a fucking selfless ass person to just like sacrifice themselves.
Yeah.
You'd have to have somebody just take the L and they just die.
Yeah, they die and don't show anybody the tape. But see, that's going to be tough because you also have to make sure that like other people haven't watched it and there's not like another branch of people like showing it to other people, because then your death will be in vain.
Yo, what if you recorded over it? What if you just put some fucking, I don't know, I Love Lucy reruns on that shit?
So
and Sadako was just like, God damn it.
I will say, I think the tape is, I was going to say unoverwritable, but that's not a word. So
wow.
I feel like the tape is read only. I don't think you can overwrite it because there was the initial story about how this little kid was supposedly filming some random
Well, but how do you make
channel.
a copy?
Well, Justin means that specific VHS, you don't overwrite it.
Okay.
Yeah. So like you can't, I don't think you can overdo it. I think you can dub it onto something else, but I don't think you can, really do that. I'm sure Sadako with her mystical powers. Yeah, true enough.
And before the podcast, Justin had brought up a good question of who rewinds this tape. Like, how does it go back to the beginning? So I feel like Sadako does have some powers over the tape as well.
Little fucking Keebler elves come out at night and rewind them.
Yo, that would be dope.
That would be terrifying.
Fucking terrifying.
Kidding me?
Oh, I'm here to rewind your murder tape.
You go into like your living room, just like Nico said, like, oh, go back to sleep, Dan. I'm just rewinding the tape.
Nah.
Here's some cookies for you. Hope you enjoy them in the next 6 days.
It's salty.
No, I mean, can you
And
imagine
sweet.
all of the like the dopeness? I mean, you like fill up your water, you empty out your like Brita filter or some shit, and then like you don't have to worry about filling it up because the fucking Keebler elves.
Oh, the elves got you?
Yeah, they got you.
The elves got you with the Brita.
Yeah.
Still gonna kill you, but I'm gonna be real helpful over the next 6 days.
You're like, bro, like you're about to put out, you know what I'm saying? Like send out like a letter or something like that. Oh, I don't have no stamps. I got you covered. So
What if they were like real judgmental if you like brought a date back home? It's like, oh, wow, got a real low self-esteem, eh, bud?
Hey, fuck you,
Wow.
Keebler.
Keebler's gone too far. But I guess, so you're right though. I do think you guys are right. It takes a selfless person to stop the curse in 1998. But one thing, and I will say, and this is speaking to everyone's age at this point in time, and the 90s.
Christ.
The 90s are a thing of the past now, but this movie is almost like it's like an artifact almost because of how this thing spreads. It spreads through essentially pre-social media, which was word of mouth. People talked, like they got together in small groups and talked about this tape, and the rumors spread like that over the consciousness of this over basically this country, right? Like that's how this spreads. Do you think, let's say the tape had the same powers in nowadays time, do you think we'd all just die instantly because someone would like share that shit? It would go viral on like Twitter, and then we'd all die from watching it.
So here's where I've got myself burned that I need to come clean about.
Oh no.
There was one day when I gave Justin a rather frantic, panicked call. This was the early 2010s. I gave Justin a phone call and I told him, hey man, I just bought something recently, and then I got an email from this account that said it was FedEx, and
Yes.
it said, if you want to check the status of your shipment, just click the FedEx.exe. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is a reasonable thing to do. And so my dumbass would probably get killed, yeah.
I mean, Dan, do you think that social media would basically just make this thing incredibly strong?
Yeah, I don't think people can resist like spreading it. And I mean,
People are too fucking dumb.
yeah, and the ease of just like how easy social media makes it to just share shit. I mean, yeah.
What if it like autoplay? Like, what if you were just scrolling through your feed
Yo,
and shit
that'd be
started to
some
play?
shit.
It should be
Like
fun.
you
That'd
didn't
be
even
some
press
shit.
play.
Just scrolling through the gram. Oh, Christ.
Or what if it was like on a website? Like, what if it was like on a website that had terms and conditions, and you just scroll past that shit, but like in the TLC, it was
Yeah.
like Sadako will murder that ass in 7 days, and whatever, it's all good.
And not in a way that you would be amenable to.
Nah. And this actually leads us into our next thing, which is the what would you do? So, as I oftentimes say, we're going to take it back to the 90s. So, it's 98. We are the same ages we are right now, though. We're not the ages we were back in 1998.
Okay.
So, I guess we're just posted up in Japan chilling and maybe listening to a burgeoning artist, Nujabes. And we hear
Shout outs
about
to the
this
legend.
tape. Shout outs to the legend. We hear about this tape. What would you do if you heard there was a killer tape that would kill your ass if you saw it after
I
7
wouldn't
days?
fucking watch it, I tell
Watch
you that.
shit.
Okay, so DOTD agrees, and I kind of knew this was going to happen, but DOTD agrees. It is our official stance that we would not watch any haunted media that was purported to murder us in 7 days. I think that's pretty clear. For some reason, the people in this movie / I was going to say show, but it's a movie, can't resist but to watch a fucking murder tape.
One thing I was thinking about though was I kind of get it for like the high schoolers because I feel like they're like all the peer pressure and the, you know, oh, I dare you to watch this or whatever. And it's just a fucking tape.
And no balls you won't.
But me as an adult, I don't give a fuck about impressing people, bro. I don't give a fuck if you think I'm a coward. Hell no, I'm not watching that shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe this was all just a massive analog for like the Tide Pod challenge or the cinnamon challenge or whatever else.
Yeah.
Like maybe this is just that back in '98. But no, I mean, okay. So now I thought we would reject that. So next up, we attend a party, and without us knowing it, you know, we happen to watch because it's only like a 30-second short film, basically by Sadako, very artistic. But we
It
watch
actually
it.
kind of was, though. No bullshit.
So and she left some really nice clues too.
She did.
Fucking word art in there. Eruption.
Yeah. So we watch it, and all of a sudden the phone rings, and you know we pick it up, and you know we hear like, "You watched it." No, we didn't, dude. It was like in the corner. We didn't really like sit there and watch it. Like Nico's debating with the
Yeah,
ghost,
he's straight up
and then
arguing.
the ghost is like, and the ghost's like, "No, you saw what happened, right?"
Like, no, Dan
man,
was in the bathroom. I was making
Yeah.
some food.
Yeah, like,
and
we
Justin was on the
didn't
phone
watch
with his
this.
girl.
You saw enough. You saw enough of it. You're gonna die in 7 days. So we're gonna die in 7 days. What would you do? Would you think to do all that detective work?
No.
I would ask to see Death's manager.
Oh.
Exceed my
seriously-
power as a white man.
Would you try that detective work? Would you even think to do it? I mean, this man played the, you know, Dan, you could play the audio real slow so we could hear the shit about the goblins in the brine.
Yeah.
And then Nico would use
So
his
please
literary
don't
skills.
give context to that either.
There's a phrase. What's the Nico? You know the phrase. You've studied it before.
It's something like I don't know, something with goblins. Just watch the fucking movie.
I'm gonna Google goblin in the blind.
Careful.
Goblin.
Careful now. Don't watch
Goblin in the
anything you're
brine.
not supposed to.
Whoa.
Sequel to Rolling in the Deep by Adele.
There we go.
Goblins
There
in
we
the
go.
Brine.
It's frolic in brine. Goblins be thine. Yeah, you know, Nico would translate that, and we'd get that going. And we'd personally, I think between the three of us, we'd have to think about it. We'd have to figure it out.
See, the thing that would happen is you would just start like autopilot in your fucking detective mode shit, and Dan and I would be like, all right, fuck, I guess we gotta make sure this motherfucker doesn't go get us killed.
Yeah, we would just go along with it.
Yeah.
All right. So let me ask you guys real quick. Favorite scenes? You gotta have one. Let's go ahead and start with the speak softly but carry a big stick. Dan, what would you say is your favorite scene in this?
I'm gonna do a cop out answer. Can I just
You're
say
gonna
the
say when she
last
comes up to
scene?
TV.
I mean, that
You
fucking
hoe.
scene was fucking
It was
awesome.
so good.
Yes, well done, Dan. Well done.
I'm sorry. I know that was easy.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I picked the unique one. I picked the artistic one this time around. So we're gonna go ahead now and we're gonna fast forward to you, Nico. What would you say is your favorite scene in this film?
My Dan beat me to it. That last scene is just so fucking good. Like, I know I previously said it earlier in this episode, but it's way fucking more terrifying than you would expect. It's so good. And her fingers crawling out there, it's like I haven't seen some like level of decay on a person like that really since The Fly.
I thought she had no fingernails because she tried to climb out of the well and she like
Yeah.
lost her fingernails like that. That was a cool attention to detail right there. I'm gonna say that my favorite scene was right before that. So, we get kind of like a happy ending. It's like a false happy ending where Reiko and Ryuji, they think the curse is done. So Reiko, she's in her house and she's thinking, she steps out onto her balcony, pauses, and after a couple seconds, the date shows up and the music gets a little
yeah.
more ominous.
Yeah, that
And
was
it's
a
like, oh
great
shit.
transition.
Oh shit. Because they don't have to say a word to you, but you know that the curse is still going on. Something is wrong. It's not happy. And man, I love that. Because again, I've said it before and I will say it every time if possible. Movies are a visual media. And sometimes they don't take advantage of that enough. Just show me. You don't have to tell me, show me. So I mess with that 10,000%. But with the good must come the bad. So any critiques really for this? I have one and I'll lead. The sound effect when the good doctor boops Sadako over the head into the well was a little bit ridiculous. That was a total and again, I can't speak to sound effects from back then, but it sounds borderline comical when he gives her a little bump on the head. It is that sound effect, if you look it up, the scene where he hits her, he's got like a sledge or something like that in his hand, right? Like a sledgehammer. When he connects, it's like I can't even make the sound. It's just wild. So that's my only major criticism. I mean, I thought the movie was tight. I thought it was well paced. I just sincerely enjoyed it. So that's my only real major criticism. How about you, Nico?
This isn't really a criticism, more of a lament. Cards on the table. I saw this on YouTube myself, and the quality wasn't that great. And I think it actually was something that, in a way, benefited from it because it just really helped with this sort of like hazy atmosphere and the overall vibes. But I do wish I could have seen it with a little bit more visual fidelity.
I guess kind of as like a super, super quick response to that, I have seen it on DVD or something like that. I don't even know if this is on Blu-ray, but I've seen it on DVD, and yeah, it looked pretty similar to the version I saw now.
Okay, that's fair. Then I can't think of anything in particular. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed this.
Dan, what would you say are some criticisms from your end?
I don't really have too many. I guess a small one was once or twice it was kind of hard for me to follow who some of the side characters were. So
yes.
Yeah.
The person who I'm pretty sure is Sadako's grandfather.
Yeah.
At first, I thought he was the doctor, and then when
Dr.
realized,
Ikuma?
yeah,
Yeah,
when
I
I
thought
realized
so
he
too.
wasn't, I was like, wait, now I'm just confused because I missed who he actually was, which is probably partly my fault of not fully paying attention, but that kind of confused me for a little bit. That's about it. I mean, like you said, Justin, it was a pretty tight movie, pretty well written, and just great all over.
Yeah. And, they adapted this from a book. So I thought they did a splendid job adapting it from a book. I haven't read the book, mind you, but I thought it was nice. I liked it. Now, I guess, Dan, one quick comment on your criticism, not to detract from it at all. I think that that's something that I run into sometimes, particularly with foreign language films,
That's true.
because just when you're having to kind of
Yeah.
keep up with a big cast of characters that, the names are not even, they're not traditional names from that we're used to hearing. So it can kind of take you a little bit to process and memorize some of those names.
That's true.
But, I appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead now and check the score on good old Rotten Tomatoes. So this is sitting at a 97% from critics.
Wow.
Oh, fuck.
And it's sitting at an 81% from the audience. Oof. Nico.
Yeah, okay. So I will say this much. When we first started doing Don't Open That Door, I was looking forward from the jump to watching the two sort of big names in Japanese horror being The Grudge and, Ringu. And my sort of thought process was if I could make an analogy to those films being sort of like albums or music. The Grudge is a kind of funky progressive rock album that does a lot of experimentation but is still pretty cool. And Ringu is just like a Van Halen record that just fucking slaps. It's just really fucking great. I'm going to give this a 93.
Nico sliding in with that 93. Dan, where do you put this in your pantheon, sir?
I would put it at that's tough. I'm gonna say an 89.
Woof.
Oof.
And any particular reason for that? Any kind of just thoughts about what this is to you?
I just thought it was a really quality movie, and like I said, after I finished watching it, I was feeling some kind of way, and that doesn't really happen too often. Not like, oh, I don't ever get scared or anything, but it sort of put me on edge.
It affected
I guess.
you.
Yeah. And in a way that movies don't do to me very often. So I thought that was really cool. And it was one of those where at the beginning of the movie, I was kind of looking at my phone every once in a while. And then by 10 minutes in, I was totally forgot the rest of the world. And I was just in the movie. And yeah, so I just thought it was pretty solid.
So for me, I'm going to give this one a 90. I think it's as you said, Dan, I think it's well written. I truthfully enjoy it. And I had to give it a little bit of bonus props for this. This was the movie that really put Japanese horror on the map in the West.
Yeah.
This was the movie. This was the one that had the crossover appeal. It got the remake. It kickstarted it, basically. This, to my knowledge, was the first real big grand slam. And it still holds up. The story is great. I love it. So those are my thoughts. So now, let's go ahead and take the temperature of the table. Dan, would you recommend this one to a friend?
Yes.
I would as well. Nico, how about you?
Definitely.
We'll go back around the opposite way. Nico, does this get the golden seal of approval from you?
Yeah. Enthusiastically so.
I would say for me as well. I love it. Dan, how about you?
And for me as well.
Boom. It gets the golden seal of approval from Don't Open That Door. So if you haven't seen it, best to get out there and watch that. So
And then give us a ring to let us know what you thought.
Pretty much. Any last thoughts before we bring this one to a cease, gents?
Who do you think would win in a pure just fucking fist fight? Sadako or Kayako?
With just our knowledge from Ju-on and Ringu.
Just our knowledge from the first movies of each particular franchise.
Before I saw this, I thought it was going to be Kayako. But after watching Ringu, I'm like, I don't know.
I feel like
I don't know.
Kayako would.
Oh, you still
In a
do?
fist fight, I think Kayako would.
She could do the Matrix.
Yeah, she can crawl around and
real
do.
squirrely and shit.
Okay, I guess you're right. Because Sadako can't use her psychic powers in a fist fight.
True.
So yeah, you're right. It's Kayako.
It's I guess it's like the fucking Batman thing. With enough planning,
Oh.
I feel like Sadako would win.
Sadako would be like, hey, you want to watch a movie real quick? Okay, sure. And then a week later, challenge her to a fight.
Yeah.
But no, all right. Good thought, Nico. Good thought.
Thank you.
And if you want to hear more thoughts like that, you guys should give us a follow. We're on Twitter and Instagram at DOTD Horror, and we're also on Facebook. Don't Open That Door. That's been it from Justin, Nico, and Dan. We would love to hear your feedback on this if you haven't seen it, if you have seen it, or if you plan to see it. And we'll definitely cover the US remake at some point in the future. So you can count on that coming down the pipeline at some point. But yeah, that's been it. We hope you guys don't watch any, killer VHS tapes if you still have VHS tapes. And yeah, keep yourself safe. And please, ladies and gents, don't open that door. Bye.